Hey everyone. I know it's a bit weird to be delivering a video while lying down, but I'm in that sweet spot on my bed in winter sun. See that? You know, when the sun is just warm. My mom and I love winter sun. Here's Gato, he's also Pantera. I don't know why he's facing the wall like Blair Witch Project, but whatever. I love winter sun. And I'm feeling a kind of, I thought, what better way to deliver my prophecy, my auricular prophecy for the coming year, which is a big one because Pluto is also moving into Aquarius. And I'm not an astrologer, but I do know that Pluto is a big transition. It's like generational, like how you would get subcultures and you'd go, oh, that was the 60s energy and ethos. Oh, that was the 80s energy and ethos, right? So it's like 60s, 70s. I think it's like a 20-year cycle as far as I remember. And it brings in a whole generational subcultural shift, a shift in consciousness, and you start to see it in culture, obviously, right? That's something I studied as well. I did my first MA on postmodern identity and subculture because I'm so fascinated by cultures, and I was fascinated at the time by the way I was expressing as a person in my youth, growing up in 90s, just transitioned South Africa, post-apartheid South Africa, 90s music, grunge, how that raw, real authenticity played out in my life, the way I dressed, the things I did, that made me aware of myself and I was like, why do I do this? Why am I so into this? Why am I countercultural? What does that even mean? So I've always loved, I guess, just exploring what I'm doing. Like, that was natural for me, and I love that I love the authenticity of 90s subculture. Like there was a rawness and different, each era comes with a sensation, a feeling, an ethos, a consciousness, an imprint on reality and life, right? So when we look at the 60s, I love the 60s. I wish I could have been there, and I can feel the vibe of it when I listen to the music and read the books and see the artwork that came out of that time. And we connect with these different eras through these artistic forms, right? And we're busy transitioning into a whole new era and consciousness of artistic form. We're coming into a new renaissance. We're coming into a golden age. And there's a feeling of, so because I experienced this very raw aspect of the mother coming back into myself, the Lilith or Kali, I felt her last year. I had a prophecy about her last year. I feel she's actually genuinely arriving in all of our bodies right now and taking us into a deeper level of, and when I say she, it's also, obviously this applies to men as well, right? Because it's an archetypal energy. The raw, authentic, it's the destroyer. It's the Shiva Kali, meaning the destroyer, but the creator. The destroyer is the creator, right? It's not like only destruction. With destruction and complete breaking down is full new creation and rebirth. And the energy of that archetype, Kali Lilith, is like very authentic, very raw, which is quite 90s, right? If you know about that 90s, if you grew up in the 90s like I did, music was so, I mean, you still don't get the kind of hip hop and rock and alternative that you were getting in the 90s. You do not get that now. I'm sorry. And I know every generation says this. My dad like swears by the 70s music, and he should. It's so good. But anyway, there's an ethos, and that ethos was quite Lilith. The 90s was quite Lilith in its realness, in its authenticity, in its the system rage against the machine, like so real, so real. And there's that aspect, that there's that kind of energy in a new way, in a new Aquarian way, in its own kind of form taking place now. And it's not so much between the person, and like in the 90s, I'm countercultural and I don't like the system, me opposing the system. It's kind of more of that happening in the self. So why there still might be this ethos, like for me, for sure, everyone knows, I have a few things to say about the system, fourth age capitalism, and the whole corporatism and the whole thing. It's nuts. It's nuts. Our governments are nuts. What? You know, like, I think we're all waking up to this. So there's this revolutionary force that's coming in. It's funny because I grew up in a revolution. I grew up being in the frequency of the South African fire, you know, South Africa breaking through. I was 12 when apartheid ended. And I learned a lot from growing up in that country and being like, holy shit, what just happened here? You know, when you grow up and you learn about that immediate history that's changing, and like you realize how much your country had oppressed the majority of people who were black, like in ways you can't even imagine. You're like, what the fuck just happened here? You're just becoming a teenager and waking up, and you don't know. You're just like in assembly and getting like a new anthem. Nkosi Sikelele. I'm like, what do you mean this is our new anthem? A new flag. Everything changed, and that's when, you know, there was like this forced encounter in South Africans where it was like, oh, you mean they weren't terrorists? For the adults, right? The white minority mostly were like, what do you mean Nelson Mandela's not a terrorist and he's actually Time Man of the Year or UN Peace Laureate of the Year? I can't remember. He's won so many things. What do you mean he's on Oprah? 1 year ago, he was in jail for 27 years, including all his comrades and everyone who's ever worked to try and overthrow this insane system of systemic racism and complete takeover of a country for minerals, gold, a complete dictatorship and squashing down of the native peoples who were the majority. It's like waking up, you know, at least I was 12, and so I didn't know what was going on. I was just kind of transitioning, but I looked at my parents' generation, and I was like, I remember saying to my mom, like, why didn't you guys do anything, Mom? Like, I'm now learning about this at university, and all our road names have changed, and everything has changed in my country. Like, everything shifted for the better in terms of we have the most what do you call it, sophisticated constitution in the world, right? And we became very aware of what had happened and what racism is and what systemic racism is and how much our media was censored and controlled to make us believe a certain story. So that's what my mom said to me. She was like, my darling, we thought for sure they were terrorists because that's what we got told in the news every day. She was like, I had no idea this was going on. Okay? And that all broke through in the 90s, right? 94 was the breakthrough. Okay. Now, that kind of breakthrough is going to definitely happen on a global scale and in a lot of our minds collectively. There's going to be a breakthrough in understanding of the system around you. That maybe you've just avoided thinking about this and you call people like me and others conspiracy theorists. So we're kind of over it now. I don't even care about that. Like now and then I go in a deep state, like spin around because I'm like, ah! But then I come back to like, I'm just gonna live my life, you know, and I'm gonna keep deepening my self-love, deepening my expression, deepening my realness, deepening my path, because that is literally breaking the system, and it is. That's what the age of Aquarius is, and Pluto moving into Aquarius. It's a death transformation planet, right? It's the death of a generation, or that a kind of the thinking associated with a generation, right? It's a whole new culture. It's a whole new subculture, and it's going to be loaded with a 90s kind of ethos. There's going to be that thematic inside the subculture. 90s being, the ethos being, the sun's getting really bright now because it's low, and I'm like, all right, sun, just give it to me, illuminate me. Shit, man. The hell? Let me turn this way for a bit. But, so it's going to be, it's going to have liberation at its core, authenticity, so much realness, so much real self-expression, new forms, new ways, new songs, new images, new ways of expressing, full and very authentic, very real, and so to that person. Like there's gonna all this mimicry of like characters and this kind of unrefined way of expressing. I think culture and art is just going to get so much more subtle, nuanced, interesting again. Really, there's some beautiful stuff out there, but I just think it's going to get like, there's going to be when you can look back on a time and say that art is realism, that art is impressionism, that art, this playwriting is realism, a zeitgeist happened across continents. So realist playwriters, I learned this when I studied theater, is like, the realist playwriters weren't, I'm trying to think, like a Doll's House, Ibsen, what else is good realism? But writers were writing on different continents, not having the internet, right? Not knowing, but there was a zeitgeist or collective consciousness of them writing in a realistic style when it came to theater and stage and realism. And then absurdism came with Beckett and these things. So it's like theater, you see in every art form, you can track that kind of movement through painting as well. So not only would it be happening on stage, it would be happening in the visual arts scene, right? So when you track people, actual artists who are working in whatever field they work in, you can see the thematic of the subculture. So you can read the era of absurdism in many forms, surrealism in many forms, Dadaism, you can read realism, you can read the One Love hippie movement in many forms, right? So across the board, we're moving into a new cultural expression that's going to come out in so many forms depending on people's personal mediums and ways, and like truly authentic, real, raw ways of expressing, which is why I guess I decided to do my video like this today. Usually I like to do a setup and I'm like, I'm going to shoot this on my cam, but I'm like, this is where it's coming. The sun is on me. Mark Twain used to write his novels lying down. Surely I could do this shit lying down, and I feel more, I don't know. So what is this even? I don't know. I'm just here expressing as a person in her authenticity, as all of us are, like, what does your real, genuine expression, no effort look like? That's Aquarius. It's like, who are you? Who's the human you? So human that you're not putting on any editing. You're not putting on any character. It's just like as it is. Like deep levels of authenticity in us. And that's what I'd felt a lot of. I felt Lilith and Eve have this sort of right side and left side of the self. Lilith is the left-hand path, the place of primal symbols, not giving a fuck, and Eve wants to curate a bit and structure. There's a masculine aspect to Eve. Eve brings structure to the form, and creates pattern, so we need Eve as well. We need the masculine eye, but the masculine is there to come after the feminine, come after the flow, to hold a container for the flow as opposed to control the flow and overthink it. So as a script editor and screenwriting, I know the pattern very well. And when I sit to write a screenplay, I sometimes get caught in my Eve because I am thinking about the pattern and the movement, and I'm getting lost in the math when my body and my creativity is saying to me, no, Jen, let's just vibe. Don't think about the story form just yet. Don't bring structure. Vibe. And play play, flow it out, spit, fun. What? I'm just lying here. This is fun. This is nice. It's easy. I'm not even trying. But this is the piece, right? This is what I'll share with you to make the point. The medium is the message. This is the piece. It's like, what is so real for you? I love shooting. My art is, well, I love shooting cinema stuff, but this is my art that really juices me up. I love finding the pattern and finding when the auricular comes through. I love speaking the wisdom of Sophia, and I have Mercury in the ninth conjunct the sun at 22 degrees in Aries. So it's like, I love this. I'm built for this, and we're all built for something we love doing. Like, it's just your vibe. And it comes out, and it's my priority in life because I find it genuinely interesting. Like, everything I share with you, I'm like genuinely tracking that myself. I'm like on my vibe. Like, I'm living, that's like my vibe. I love it. Right? So it's like everyone's going to be on their vibe, and that vibe is going to be uncurated, a little primal, authentic, a little edgy. There's a new marriage of Eve and Lilith in us, where Lilith, or the edgy, intuitive, wild side of the self, Pan, Dionysus, you know, the wild, the nature side is just like given more of her or his space in the self. Like, I found myself bringing up more Kali in myself, more Lilith came in, and I've given her space in myself. There's a new layer of Lilith. It got more nuanced. There's like a marriage of polarities happening in myself and in the collective self. And that marriage of polarity of more dragon in us, more wild has come into us. And what happens when wild energy comes in? Subculture is born. Because it's in the bodies of people, and people express, and people are artists. So what happens when a movement of art happens and subculture happens? You watch a culture, and it's coming out of theater, dance, poetry, song, the coffee shops where people talk, me where I spit and like to see the pattern. Like, wherever it is, it's coming out, and you see, whoa, right? The wild is being born, and thus a subculture is being born. And Pluto moving into Aquarius is this age of that kind of subculture, what I've been expressing. And it's this sense of liberation is going to be primarily in the self and one's own expression. And this collective rawness of the real wild coming through all of us, what that genuinely is, brings a sense of power into the body, a sense of love, a sense of high frequency, because we're just living in our enjoyment. And that is a huge injection. It's fire, it's sex energy into the collective consciousness, because the way we shift consciousness is by shifting ourselves. Now imagine we're all vibing in our gifts, rocking in our authenticity, just living in it and loving it, and really enjoying that your art is actually really simple because it's the thing you're doing anyways, and it's what's totally natural. It doesn't even take effort. It's not like a whole rigmarole. Oh, this is going to take $2 million to fund this film. We need this huge crew, and then this and this and this. Yeah, I wrote 2 screenplays. They got good producers, but every time the finances nearly came through, they fell through. And I went through that for many years, and I was like, you know what? The hell? I spent years writing these stories, and now this whole industry system has to come behind and verify the story, and all this money needs to come through for the story to come out. And it's been frustrating, and it's just like I've let that go now. But I'm like, that's the old system of creation, where like the story gets held back. But for us now, it's like very raw. It's like the story is coming out, and we're sharing a lot, and that's spell work, right? When you share your artistry and your creation, you are imprinting into the realm. And that imprint, first of all, will change you, and it will absolutely affect the frequency of the realm. So we're all imprinting with authenticity, wild, primal, pure, joyful, like raw stuff, real stuff. You believe the external will then become more raw and real. So reality is gonna change because we're actually now just vibing. We're moving into this era of like much deeper self-love, because to vibe like that with such raw authenticity and to believe in that voice in the self, right, and not like hold back just to be that, that's a deep level of self-love, because you're rocking as your child, which is that's, for me, that's the point of life, to rock in your vibe and to own it and love it and be it and share it. That's the, literally enlightenment. It's like you're here, aware of who you are, cool, you work through your shit, you love who you are, you're so in love with yourself to vibe like that, right? So we're coming into an age when everyone's going to vibe like that, so you can imagine the level of self-love on the planet. Is there anything more transformative than love itself? No. And creativity? No. So we're all rocking in our creative energy. We are then creating. The external will just by nature follow. We don't even have to focus on the external. We just have to rock out. And it will by nature, the law, it will follow. As within, so without. But all we need to do is the within part. And our own personal expression part. And the truer it is, and the more natural and comfortable and real it is, the more loving it comes from that chill place of I just dig myself, it's whatever. Then the more it's life, it's joy, it's content, it's lovely. It doesn't have to be a big thing. So that I see, and it's also going to be so what comes out of that is that I see it as an age of autonomy. And because I've just come through, and this happens, I'm having my experience, and watching it, seeing it, allowing the illumination, the revelations to come through, and I know that because of what I'm born to do, which is share her wisdom. I'm an oracle. I'm a Vestal virgin. I'm a nun. I belong to the mother. I've given her myself entirely. I love her, and my womb is her womb. So I chose not to have children and a family because I love family and children, and I love that, but I'm more in love with her, so I gave her my womb. So I know what she's creating, and I experience it just a little bit sometimes ahead of the collective. And I know that. So I go through an experience. It's also because I'm Aries, so I'm right at I'm going through it first. And, that's why it works with how I work with her, and as as an emissary of her. So I have to share, hey, this is what I went through. This is what I know. This is my experience. It's still quite fresh. It's not super old, but I know that when it comes through me, it's coming in. So that's how I know. That's how oracles can work, because it's come through your own body. And I've gone into a much deeper level of autonomy because of a deeper level of my Lilith and Eve, or my masculine and feminine. They came into union inside me. That's what becoming a Vestal virgin or a nun is. So I've had a marriage of a man and a woman in me, or Lilith and Eve, right? And so I have the satisfaction of creativity and juicy expression, which is Lilith, and I have and intuition and play and the fun, and then I have also my Eve, who takes care of me, and I work and I have a schedule, and she helps me formulate things, and she makes, she's the part of me that cooks good food. I eat good food. She makes me take my tree fella in the evenings, and they work together as this couple of and myself, and I love both sides of them, and they love each other. They've fallen in love with each other, basically, is what's happened. And that has created a sense of autonomy in me, a new feeling of autonomy, like where I'm like, I feel so complete in myself, and it's such a lovely feeling, and I'm learning more of it and feeling more of it, and it's like I know that that means that this feeling is being felt by more people, and it's going to be a collective Aquarian thing of the autonomy in Aquarius comes from um, self-love, loving your very unique form of expression, like just digging on it, right? Aquarius, very unique, like, so exactly you, right? So many forms of like just so that person, right? Your vibe, your expression, feeling so satiated within the self, such a deep level of self-love, which is God love, which is enlightenment. Self-love is the path of enlightenment, right? So the deeper that goes, the more autonomous one becomes, sovereign, increasing layers of sovereignty. So it's like I see Aquarius as humans and myself. We're all going to become a lot more, and we are like sustained and full and sovereign in our own Merkaba. And there's going to be a lot less need for egoic or frivolous stuff, like be that meaningless connections or numbing outs or whatever. We just a lot more whole and well in our system. And we don't need other people or things or anything like that to fulfill us. We are totally sourced. We source everything from within. So we're not like getting caught up in enmeshments and entanglements and like weird binds. There's a lot less of that. We've come into a really great place of autonomy, like spiritual autonomy, which is so healthy. And I think Aquarius is going to be more of that autonomy in our diversity, right? And then also because of that autonomy, we're going to come into connection and community in a very wholesome way where things don't seep energetically because we're all quite whole and we all loving. There's such unique expressions now and ownership of it that there's like life becomes fun. When you like go to a music festival and everyone's just vibing in their outfits, and it's so interesting. You're meeting such interesting people and perspectives and things like that. Like life is going to become a little bit like, I think that like the people we're encountering, we're all like really in our gifts and this energy's arriving in all of us. So it's like fun to see, like share your work, see each other's work, learn from each other. There's like a level of connection happening. And I remember in February last year, 2022, one of my prophecies for this year, as we're ending now 2023, was that the mother was going to bring tribes together and just reposition you. And I didn't realize, but that has actually just happened now, mostly January, February, March. So many people have moved location. And I was like, what? Mexico? This person's just entered my life who's become such a great friend. Like the mother, or consciousness has arranged us in the last few months in such a way, I think, where we're all newly positioned to have a very new experience of life in reality. A new story's beginning. And I felt this when I did a spell or occult piece where I poured out my blood and did a Sufi dance and spoke the new earth into being under the Hollywood sign, right? Because I truly felt in my body, I was like, this is the end of the world, that I could feel it was the end. It was the end of a form of collective consciousness. And this new one coming, woo! New Renaissance stuff, guys, like new Renaissance, like the Renaissance was so powerful because alchemical literature came into Europe, right, from the Near East, and these artists then were reading about Hermes, and these things were coming into their understanding, and alchemy was coming in, alchemical wisdom. So they, of course, had their own huge personal revelations and depicted that in their work however they wanted to, like Da Vinci's work. And you can see, in even the formation of where they put subjects in the painting, it's like you can see these were alchemists, like they understood there was a renaissance. That's why they call that the Renaissance, the awakening of humanity. There was an awakening in human consciousness. And look at all the artwork. I mean, my God. So we're having one of those. And what a time to be alive. I'm so thrilled. And the awakening is a sacred awakening. It's alchemical as well, so it's a sacred awakening. And when the awakening is sacred, it's so raw and real and authentic and expressive. So I can't even wait to, I'm already feeling a new energy coming through my work. Yeah, Lilith came in stronger, and I'm giving her much more space, which is my raw side, my real side, my primal side, right? And I still love Eve, and Eve's also around, but I'm definitely giving this more space. So this is my one little cell in the massive body. You can see the formula in what I'm doing here. You can already see the texture of what I'm saying in the message. Medium is the message. Yeah. So don't feel weird if you've got edgy ideas and because there's a lot of edgy, and I can feel in myself. I'm like, ooh, this is edgy. It's actually kind of tingling again. When I was young and I would create, and I was like in the 90s, like that kind of music, and there was like this, that sexual feeling when you're in your teens and you're like vibing or whatever. I've got that feeling. That's what this feeling feels like, and that's what living in creativity feels like, actually. It's kind of like that teenage kind of sexy feeling. Not necessarily wanting to have sex, but that feeling of like you're just vibing in your vibe and your energy's in, and it's like you're on. It's like that. And it might not be like that all every day, and I'm not condoning hypervigilance. We still need to work with the rhythm of the body if we need to be inert and motionless and rest, So, but I feel that in general as a energy, and that's very creative energy. If the collective is creating in creative, original, authentic ways, so raw and real, can you imagine what that creative energy is going to do to actual reality? So what I'm just considering now, I'm like, well, what will it do to reality, Jen? Oh, the sun softened a bit, thank God. Can you see it out there? The Pantera. Hey. Beautiful thing. I always tell black cats, Pantera and my other cat Tua, that Sophia's her favorite creature to be is a cat, for sure, but her most favorite is to be a black cat. I think that's her most favorite creature that she ever created and loved to be in. I just don't think there's anything more perfect than a black cat. Pantera? There's nothing more perfect than the feline, right? As a creature. It's beautiful. Anyway, so where was I? Yeah, so that's what I feel is coming in this year. I always do a little message for what I feel. It's a prophetic act as well, and my creative energy is working through me, as I shared in my last posts about this creative surge coming in now as we're having an embodiment. And one of the ways I create is spitting prophecy. I love going through the process of listening. My Mercury and the Sun in the 9th at 22, just like Aries. Like I want to communicate the wisdom, Mercury and the Sun. Mercury, my communicating planet, with the Sun in the 9th, all about philosophy and religion and devotion and spirituality and life and this stuff, alchemy. It makes perfect sense that when my creative energy is pumping, it usually means I have a message. Yeah. it's coming out, the message, and this is the way I express, sharing Sophia's wisdom. I guess that's my art form, right? And cinema. But I kind of use my cinema work more when my creativity is in the subterranean place. So that's when I like to use my blood. I have imagery that comes into my mind, just symbols. I don't know what it means, but I'm like, go and film the symbols you're seeing, and I film things. I'll show you in a video that I post soon. And that's when I work with the subterranean self in a creative way, because I still have to show those symbols. Because when I show myself those symbols and I enact them, so that's like the Lilith form of creativity, meaning it's subterranean. I don't know what it is. I'm just doing it, you know. And when I do that, it comes into the sun or the fullness. So I usually do that around sort of new moon. And then at the full moon, it comes up the system, and I can almost verbalize what all those symbols meant. I didn't understand it then, but I have an understanding now. And my creativity comes out in this way, quite vocal, you know. So it's different for everyone, but I work with both points in the system. This point of the Taurus, toroidal field, and this point here. This is the Lilith point. So I have creation, symbolic, cinematic work when the energy's there. And when the energy's here, it comes out of my mouth because it's moving up into cognition. So I can put it into words or language. Yeah. That's me riffing. That's my gift. Explaining this whole thing the best way I can, you know. Yeah, so I think new communities, flourishing, a lot of flourishing, abundant energy, things coming together very simply, not like laborious. You know, when you were trying to do something sustainable or communal in the past, it would be laborious. Well, not laborious, but it would take a great deal of effort and would feel like a big, you know, having to break through. But I feel like this year, the mother's putting us in new teams, and she's taking us to new places just naturally in our own life paths, and groups are going to come together that just like the collective energy makes it happen really easily, because there's so many different giftings, and it's just when there's that much energy and creativity and joy and fun in life with that many people all on a vibe of like higher vibes, you can imagine where two or more are gathered, right? So as she starts putting us together, where two or more are gathered, this energy just makes life open. It manifests, the collective manifestation happens much quicker because where two or more are gathered. More energy coming together, more power, right? More electromagnetic draw. So all our hearts coming now, all these hearts that we've all been in isolation, especially toward the end of Pluto Capricorn, like all having to really go inward, really, you know, the inside first, very important. So put into isolation to go in. And now a lot has transitioned in all of our personal lives. And so now we're all ready to go out again into community and human connection. And when we come together with all this Aquarian authenticity and love and self-love and autonomy, I think it's just going to be like manifestation is just going to work. This whole thing of like, you don't need to vision board. I came across some YouTube video, and I was like, oh, yet again another person giving a spiritual lesson on how to manifest and telling you to, you know, like have the vision board, cut it out, know it inside out, be super specific, write it all down, get it down, think about it all day, and make it your screensaver on your phone. Imagine yourself walking around the house. Like, so much fucking effort. I was like, yeah, sure, I can see how that would work because I know how reality works, but what a lot of effort. And that's not what manifestation is, unfortunately. That's manifestation from a very low density understanding of life. Because if I know this for myself, okay, when I'm in the dark or I want something for myself or there's confusion, yeah, okay, maybe I don't have a home at a certain point, and I want to manifest a home because that's what I want. So I start going ballistic trying to manifest a home. Meantime, my whole path has been about letting go, having to need a physical home, until I actually came to home in my own body. That happened toward the end of 2022. I was like, I'm home in my body. When I left India, I was like, I can't leave my home. And the mother said to me, you came home here. You're in your body. Wherever you go is home. And I just burst out crying because I was like, on the way to the airport, for the first time leaving India, realizing, oh my God, I don't think I'm coming back to India. This is my goodbye. And she left it to the very last moment to reveal that to me. Well, I did because of how much I love India. And I was like, that was her big lesson to me. And I was like, oh my God. Sorry, I have to plug in my phone again. That is... Thank you. I'm so humbled, and yes, you're right, Mom. I'm in my body. And I'm home. Oh my God, I'm finally home. So if I had manifested a physical house during that process, which I wanted to do so often, because who doesn't want to feel roots when they're going through a complete dissolution of needing those in the first place, right? What I want for myself is not necessarily it's actually never what Sophia or the Holy Spirit is manifesting or would like to manifest. My understanding is very limited. So when I choose to manifest in such an ordered, masculine way, like, here's my vision board, this is what I want exactly down to the specifics. I'm sorry. First of all, that's such a patriarchal understanding of spiritual energy. And that's pure control. That's control. The only way to actually truly manifest is to have symbols, but you don't fully know, but it's always unknown because you're following Sophia. She's the storyteller here, not you. When you do it, you are controlling reality. The true manifestation is not my will, but the Father Mother's. I do not understand. How can I possibly know what to manifest in my limited understanding? Because if I'm on the alchemical path, I know that I can't see every step in front of me. That's the nature of it. And I have to step in and go, I go because I know you. I don't know. If I know what it is, what the hell path am I walking? Why is it even hard to become an adept? If I know what it is, it has to be shown. And it's never exactly what you expect. That's manifestation. It's just stepping out. And it's easy. You're not having to go, okay, I'm doing this and I'm going to write it all down and envision it like 30 times a day and walk through the house mentally. I'm like, what? Actual manifestation is so lived. It's like a friend has the impulse to message me on Instagram, to meet me, to chat about the path and just share wisdom. We meet. She talks about wanting to step into sacred impulse and travel. I tell her about my experiences over the last 3 years. I then get back to her and I'm like, I'm going to Mexico. Do you want to? I think you're amazing. I'd love to travel with you. And she's like, I'm doing it, And we come together. And as we're coming, this beautiful place opens up. And we're inspiring each other's journeys. And we just feel like, wait a second, you feel like family. We feel like we're on a little journey. We don't know what's ahead, but we're just following, right? We're moving, we're shifting around, we're just following the energy. We're both very much in our own flow and seasonal path. And it's like, it came together so nicely, and I can feel the manifestation popping when there's another person on journey with you, right? And I feel more coming in. We both feel this way, like community is somehow naturally coming together, and it's not going to be forced. It's just going to be like, oh, we're in this city and we happen to meet and we share and exchange, and there's a lovely connection and friendship and loveliness and just connections being made in the most simple way through living, through the life. So one's life is alive with that teenager sexual energy. I'm on my vibe, I'm on my quest, I'm on my expression. That's my priority. I'm on my vibe. My priority is my path because it's my vibe. Like, why would I not want to prioritize this? Because it's genuinely where I vibe. Like, I'm like back in the 90s. I feel alive. It's amazing being on my purpose and watching how it works out. It's just, anyway, so this vibe just naturally bringing people together and like creating like community and like cross connections. Like I see this big web of connection happening across the earth. Like we're moving through Mexico, we're like chatting to people like, hey, I'm coming to Mexico. I'm like, no way, I love your stuff, let's meet up, like, yeah, where are you? Oh shit, what, you're in Oaxaca right now? Like just like this, like I feel like this underground web of connection happening where it's like these little crews and tribes are being built and there's cross connections and like there's this, all of fucking Elon Musk's satellites have covered the world, right? And we're over connected technologically, which is the flip side of Pluto Aquarius, AI. But the spiritual renaissance side of that, which is the only reason that flip side is happening, is because this is happening. That's the only reason that exists. That's the simulation. That is the counter simulation to actual lived energy, human energy. Right? There's a simulation. The archontic thing is a polarized reflector, and it gets stronger as we get more non-dual and unified within self and in oneness. As we go further there, it gets stronger. So whenever I see it getting stronger in economy and culture, and I see this thing and I'm like, it bums me out in a way, but then at the same time I have an understanding of why it's getting stronger, because I read us, I read the collective, I read myself, and I'm like, because we're getting fucking non-dual strong. We're getting deeper. We are merging into the Vesica Pisces, right? We're merging into the fish more. So its expression also pulls out more into more polarization, right? So it's only a simulation. That is the mirrored simulation of reality, which is us. So it's just there to observe as a construct. It's made up. So we're coming into, and so as there's that web, a kind of archontic technological web around the earth, that's one way of seeing it. I see the mother's web across the earth, and it's actually one of the first things when I met her in 2019. It's a long story. I followed an eagle. It's a long story. I end up under this tree. I've walked through a dark wood by myself, just following like a solitary knocking sound in the middle of the woods. And I was like, I've like down weird somewhere far on the coast, like walking down this dank path. It's like, anyway, I arrive at this tree and there's like a singular woodpecker just knocking at it. And then I felt her say to me, take off your shoes because this is holy ground. And then I took off my shoes and I closed my eyes, and then I felt her expand my arms, and I saw this like rainbow frequency just going deep into the earth and expanding all across the earth. I saw it in my mind's eye. I was just watching this energy like a web completely go around the earth. And it was nature, it was mother, it was the truth, it was like nature, full nature in its fullness, in its like pan Dionysiusness. And it's funny, and I've always carried that vision with me. That was in 2019. And I got given on that same quest into the jungle, that's when I was given my staff by the mother. I've shown it to you guys before. But that's when I became a warrior, or became who I am. And that visual has been coming back to me. This is my staff. It's funny because I'm a nun, but I'm also I loved when I got to Mexico because I'll show you what I saw on the money, okay? This will make sense, and I think it's kind of why I'm here. So the first thing is, right, I get to the airport and I've always had a deep connection to Aztec culture. So I go to the bank, okay, and the first thing I see on a note is this. Can you see there? It's a nun. I was like, what? And then the second note I see, I was like, what the hell's a nun doing on money? That's me. And then the second note I see, and I don't know who these people are yet. Somebody told me and I can't remember the names. I have to still research them. But is the face of an indigenous culture man, like an Aztec man or Mayan. I'm not sure what the exact culture is. But I was like, that's me too. Because my path was definitely more, it's shamanic. So when this happened, my path, it's very in the woods. I painted myself in clay and just ran into nature, like full wild. When I was taken into that wood and I was following an eagle, I went into a full wild zone. Like my vision changed and I went into a transcendental warrior zone for 8 hours where I was just following this eagle and like having a deep discourse with the Gaian mother, right? Because I got open, that's my path, that's my gift. And then along the way, a lot of time in India and Himalaya, like the path also is very much the Sufi Virgin Mother and the awareness Gnostic path. But it's that exact thing. I'm a nun, I'm the veiled lady, and I'm also the indigenous lady, meaning like I'm Eve and I'm Lilith. Like there's a way people see me with the veil, and I don't want you to think it's full Eve, because my power and my first power that I came to know, my first power was the red woman. That's the first archetype I embodied. She was pure primal animal Jen, wild Jen. I was her. And I get all my gifts from there. That primal, subterranean, tribal space, right? So when I start, every time I go around the Ouroboros, I'm always working in the tribal, subterranean, shamanic space. So if I could paint my face red, maybe, because I know symbols are really powerful. So the symbol of the veiled mother is very powerful. It's an archetype, it's a myth, and I'm choosing to live one. We can all do that. We're all myth. We can actually, myth is a living organism. It's your body, and you can live myth. And part of my myth is also the red woman, fully naked, covered in red. I carry the red woman and the veiled woman together. Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, in my opinion, are archetypes of the Sophianic mother, because cultures that have preserved goddess mythology, you have the triune goddess, right? So you have, and there's many faces of the goddess, and there's an understanding in the old wisdom and mythological wisdom that many faces are the many faces of this one very divine, gorgeous, loving mother, Sophia, Gayatri, right? So there's Kali, Lakshmi, and Saraswati. And we have Lilith, Eve, and Mary. And when you work with the Lilith and the Eve, you are the Mary. And the Marie, in Arabic, I think means strong woman. So there were many Maries, and they were strong women, in my opinion, autonomous Vestal Virgin nuns, like tantric nuns. That's what I think. And to become a Mary, you would have, that's why in the story we have Mary Magdalene and the Mother Mary around the Christ archetype, or the child archetype. So if you just think of this as a myth, and you're looking at what the alchemical principles are in the story, so you're analyzing the story as a symbolic myth, but not literal. So if you're looking at it from my Gnostic perspective, we are looking at the two the two sides of the self, or the mother archetype, that need to be present in every human to form the third, the child. So in every mythology, in Egyptian and Gnostic as well, you have father, mother, and their union brings child. So Isis and Osiris, she scans the earth, brings Horus, the child. Right, so we scan the earth, integrating ourselves, as we integrate our own fractured self and our own pathologies, and in our recovery, we become more and more whole and more at peace, stillness. We are ultimately integrating two sides of our psyche. The great split or separation was between masculine and feminine. Eve and Adam were actually one being. They got split later in Gnosticism, and that split is when we see reality separate. It's a separation in the self. So when you marry the Eve and Lilith, or the masculine and feminine inside the self, the child is born, meaning you're actually now a true human. You're the child in the garden, playing, vibing, expressing, and not giving a shit, and being in full self-love. Like, woohoo! Mom and Daddy got my back. Shit, I can do what I want. Like, they want me to play. Mommy and Daddy want me to play. They love it. They love that I do this. They love my expression, and they provide for me, and I get everything I need. Not in the context of materialism and that kind of life. I'm talking about what you genuinely need. Not needing to control it. I'm living in the most spacious, gorgeous place that is like really crazy affordable, because I'm still transitioning to dollar. I've been living in India, right? So I'm not like balling money-wise, but it's like literally working out, and I'm being given so much abundance and like comfort. So it's like I never worry. I always know money's coming, going, whatever, wherever it's at. I'm like, all I need to be doing is living my truth, and it always works out. Like, you start living when mommy and daddy marry in yourself. You bring together the true holy mother and father through self-love, like deep integration of self and love. You become the child, and you are actually living in the world that was intended for us, not the broken, split one, where the two sides of self were split. Sun and moon were split. Adam and Eve, masculine and feminine. When those come together, you're like, I'm a kid! This is amazing! Oh my God, I love myself. I know that's tough, but I know the truth. It's okay. I got it. Da-da-da-da-da-da. It's like that. It is like that. You're so held. It's fun. Because life starts actually working for you. And of course it does, because you've surrendered and you're like, I am who I am, and I love who I am, and I protect who I am, and I'm autonomous, and I'm creative. How can it not? Like, that's how we were designed to live. So I almost see it as like Aquarius, Pluto Aquarius, and this kind of it's a prophecy for next year, but also kind of a more long-term decade prophecy, decade or two, of this coming home into the true garden in each of us, and feeling life like that, like life becomes that, because that's reality. Like, if you're living that way and you feel that way, of course it's playing out that way. It's another dimension that we all dip into and have, and we know what I'm saying. But we're going to be there for like life now. So I think it's going to be, a new web. The web's already there. We've all been positioned, and now we're going to communities are going to grow and fill, and we're going to bring to the table the diversity. Like, I don't know how to farm. Oh, well, that's great, because I'm all about permaculture. Not me. I'm just saying, the way Orville came together as well, there's permaculturalists, there's people who love to do healing and temple work, and it's like people who build out of earth. So there's so many people there doing interesting things from based on their creativity. And the whole community, it's a community that doesn't exist. How do I say this? It's written into the Indian constitution as its own, what do you call it? Not its own country, but its own thing. It's sovereign within the state of India. I mean, within the country of India. So, but it still has to bend to certain government things. But the point is, I stayed in Oroville for like 3 years, and it's been amazing to learn from this place and how people have come together to try and build a community that looks completely different to how the world does things, trying out the human unity vision. And it's all its messiness and whatever it may be. It's beautiful, it's life, it's humans, but it's so sincere and honest, and like people have done amazing things there. And so many different giftings is what I'm saying. So people can, now there's this flourishing like community, and there's enough great sustainable food because there's great farmers and permaculturists there. But then there's also great workshops because there's great people who love to manage and book and like get great healing work and practitioners coming through. There's people doing their gifts and like everyone goes there and like offers what their juice, their creativity. And that's why the community works. So it's like we're going to all be bringing our juice and creativity together, and it's all going to work out. Like there's going to be the full spectrum is going to be at the table. It's going to be like, oh shit, so you can do that, because I don't know how to grow food, but I can cook it. I love to cook it. Can't grow it though. Like, oh, I grow. Da 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 da, and like this whole like families coming together, giving me that like 80s sitcom feeling. But yeah. Anyway, so that's something I'm seeing in this age of Aquarius, and I'm feeling. Yeah, maybe I'll leave it there. Last year I said as well, because we're moving through a new Venus 8-year cycle, and last year I think we had started, so I remember prophesying we were at the root, which we are. It was the year of the root, because the story, I don't know if I should go down this road, is an annual story, which is the hero's journey, that takes place in small Ouroboros moon cycle scenes, the same pattern. Okay, so scenes are the same pattern as the full film, and the full film is the same pattern as where was I going with this? Oh, is a smaller pattern within the 8-year Venus pattern. So she started a new flower, and we're going to be moving into I think we're into our 2nd year of that. I need to check. But we're moving into the sacrum now, which is the sexual energy place. And also the place of we're breaking through into new home, a new home, a new definition of home now at the end of this root year. Home in the self, home externally, right? The root is about home. And I came home into my body. I was like, I'm home. I can walk wherever. I'm home. Even as a Cancer rising, guys, you can imagine what that was like. All I wanted to do was settle and make a nest. I was like, oh, I love these cute ornaments everywhere I traveled. And I'm a collector. I love collecting sculptures and things. And I was like, I never know where the mother's going to move me. Like, she'll move me in a month. And I'm like, I can't buy this. And such beautiful stuff. I don't know. But that was my great lesson, right? Coming home into myself through mother's manifestation, not the one I would have done with a vision board begging for a nice house. Actually coming home into myself and now living in really cool homes, like anyway, so manifestation is actually surrendering, not a vision board. Anyway, so we've broken through into home, and many people have moved location, right? As have I. A complete new breakthrough in home and home in the self. Okay, now we're moving into the year of the sacrum. So it's this kind of, that's why I think there's, between root and sacrum is where the mother is housed, right? The coiled kundalini serpent is there between the root and the sacrum. And so it's the point, that transition is also very sexual, right? That area is quite sexual. That's why I'm feeling a lot of sexual energy, youthful energy. And going into that year means we're in the sacrum, so like there's a lot of youth sexual energy, and it's going to come through in expression. We're going to use that energy to express, because we can use it to express and create and then transform via creation. So yeah, it's the year of expression, and also, challenging any deeper emotional needs around codependency, or are you fully autonomous, working through stuff, those themes, but on a more refined level, because we've taken a big step to put ourselves in the position to deepen that, right? So we're not at the beginning of that kind of concept. We're going deeper. We're refining it. So we already, we've already all come in our paths. We've done so well, as the collective golden consciousness. We're just amazing. I think humans are amazing. And I see transition in all of us. It's amazing. So we've all come here now, and so we're ready to share and offer and create. And that's going to come through. It's going to challenge more nuanced levels of autonomy. And it's also, on the flip side of that, we're going to get emotional comfort that we all need as humans, but in a new way, in an Aquarian way. Getting emotional comfort from community. Right? We often associate emotional comfort with like a spouse or a partner, and I think that's quite problematic, and that's kind of the devil card in tarot. Autonomy, even in relationships, but autonomy is very important. So not needing to seep into or gain anything from the other. And that can happen easily in relationships. So I know it's in relationships, one needs to check the self, like, am I gaining a sense of comfort or direction or decision or soothing from my partner? It's wonderful to share, but do I self-soothe? Am I totally sustained from here in the self, and I bring that gift and presence and calmness to my relationship? Not like I'm getting sustained by you and you need to talk me down or talk me up, and we're constantly in this weird contemporary dance with each other, I love contemporary dance. Maybe I'll do more of that now that we're going to this more primal Lilith Kali year. It has to be when the energy moves into that sacrum. It's like an awakening of the life forces coming in on a collective level. Like, woo! Yeah, so that would mean on the counter side, the simulation side, you'd see like an increase in sort of fetishizing porn, like AI freaking blow up dolls. I don't know, like you're just gonna see, there might be an increase in that because there's so much sexual energy that, yeah, some people put that in a compulsive place if they don't know how to use it, work it, which is through expression. So the sacral year is like coming into refinement around the sacrum, a nuanced level of wholeness and sovereign sexual energy, even if you have a sexual partner, right? What's sovereign sexual energy? No leaks. So that power is then fully in the self, just churning like the toroidal field, like boom, boom. When those two things are connected, and it's for the avatar of the self, it's just like a fucking warrior cry, like full. It just pounds. That's tribal. That's Lilith. Just like the earth, the warrior, the pound, But when those power points belong to the self entirely, it's a very strong field. Creative field, energetic field, sovereign, expressive field. So yeah, deeper inner union, which means deeper sovereign expression. Yeah. Yeah, so let's see. I'm going to keep focused on the fun part, but I know in sort of simulation culture, it's going to be interesting how the polarizing force um, will express itself because of the same energy, right? Yeah. Just looking at all my gray hairs. You know, I stopped dyeing my hair. It's about here now, yeah? My grays. The moment I became a nun. The night of my wedding, I was like, I will never dye my roots again, so I can always see the day, how long it's been. I've been the fish. I want to always see. I'll never cut it. Because I was like, okay. And obviously owning the grays for me is like yeah, it's a deeper level of authenticity for me. It's like, I love them now. You know, I'm loving them more and more as they grow out. I'm like, yeah, it's my silver. I dig it. You know, very 90s attitude, right? Deep love of self, like just owning it. Whatever. Shit. What's it to you? It's my vibe. I love. What's wrong? What's wrong with doing what I love? It's cool. And I'm totally sustained by it. Like, I don't buy the simulation story anymore because it's nuts. It's literally completely out of tune with my body and my frequency. Like living that life and that amount of work to sustain that amount of cost, and like not even in nature, so it's like overwhelming. You're surrounded by 5G, your car is operated by a fucking computer. First time I got into a Tesla, I was like, where are the door handles? And then I was like so shocked that you could see every car around you coming on the screen. There's no ignition. It just starts itself when you put your phone there. I was like, I've been in India, but I had never sat in a Tesla, and I'm just like, I'm not into it. I don't want a computer starting my car, thanks. And I don't want you telling me how many cars are around me on the screen. I can see with my fucking eyeballs, thanks, Tesla. Like, it's completely software. Sometimes the car wouldn't start because it was software. I was like, yeah, that's not an autonomous car anymore. It's like AI. I didn't even know why I went down that route. My brother knows I got so upset every time we got onto his Tesla. He was like, what? Say it. I'm like, Elon's fucking listening. I'll tell him straight. I'll tell you straight, Elon. I think you're a big, big diversion in culture. That's what I think about you, Elon. I think you're a diversion. I think you are controlled opposition until you truly prove yourself. But you can't be speaking against a certain system and AI and the dangers of it and then literally own everything that produces that. I saw your robot at the Peterson Museum, and it was cold and dead and like a futuristic nightmare. So don't act like, I'm quirky Elon. I'm quirky Elon and I'm here to speak the truth. Show that with what you own, bitch. Anyway. I know a lot of people like Elon, but guys, open wakker. We know how the game works. When Elon puts his money where his mouth is, not as a joke, because he can just buy Twitter and just pump Dogecoin when he feels like it, because I'm Elon, fraternity boy. Right? Twitter's not a big deal for Elon. It's not a big deal. What does Elon actually own and fund? Have you got into the futuristic nightmare of a Tesla? It's horrible. I always felt dizzy getting out of the car, like oppressed, because you're surrounded with so much 5G. It's like his robot is like genuinely this, like a Black Mirror episode, and his big tank, it's like a war tank, but it looks like a futuristic Jetson shape, like all pointy. Like the design's all like Jetsons and weird, and like his little futuristic spiel and his cute little Elon Gentile attitude. Meantime, what's he actually funding? Yeah, so that's the AI simulation life. The one that is so whack. It's like out of a freaking Douglas Adams, Philip K. Dick nightmare. / Orwell. It's like, who's even doing this literature mashup right now? It's insane. Anyway, so what I'm saying is there's a real earth, and one can come home into the body and giving it like a nice, peaceful, comfortable life where you actually don't need to do much to live a nice life. You can actually spend most of your time in contemplation and vibing on your own gifts. Just move out of LA. You can have everything you want, but it's like we get addicted to overproductivity and the source of that story and how we have to stay inside it to live. And it's like literally a machine. Anyway, so that's the wrong machine. And Aquarius is that frequency sign, right? And I feel like a lot more of us are going to be like, I cannot live inside this anymore. Holy shit, because the frequency is going to get higher. So they're going to feel more uncomfortable. It's going to become much more pronounced for people. Like I was saying, how when when apartheid ended, it was like, what? They weren't terrorists? Like when it's like a light comes on for people with Aquarius, like, oh shit, like really seeing it for the first time. And going, I can't, what? I'm gonna not be here, like, and fumbling through it in its messy way, whatever it may look like. But yeah, the new web coming in. Mother's web, the spider web. Spider, the grandmother of paradoxes. Okay. I'm already at an hour 15. I'm going to leave this here. I know it was a weird way for I think my prophecies usually come out in a more naturalized way. Because it just started coming. I was like, I can't even plan this. Like, I can't set my other camera up, But, yeah. I'm actually even going to have to review this to see what I said. It was just like, I feel like I just riffed guitar. That's what kind of happens with this sort of auricular thing. My gift, my vibe, what I love doing, right? I love talking about the stuff, and it's my flow. So I don't even know what I just composed. That's what I also love about these videos. Like, it's fun for me because it's a message, but when I watch it a few times over because it's a message to me. Because I'm just letting myself express, and my higher self is vibing right now, and I'm giving a message that will speak to me. And I will go back to this message time and time again, because it's like going back to a song you composed when you were just recording, but you were just like in the flow, or just drawing, or just writing, and then you read it and you're like, wow, okay, yeah, cool, yeah, for sure. And it's my mirror. It keeps me on track as well. It's like part of my process. But thanks for letting me vibe with you and share my creativity in its realness, which is this message and this prophecy. Keep it raw, keep it punk, but proper punk, true authenticity, living the life of your dreams, expressing real, raw, your gift, what is natural to you. That's what, like, genuinely, what do you want to just do? Why don't you just do that? What do you love doing? We forget that actually is the thing we're supposed to probably do, even though it's so easy. It comes so naturally to us. It's that thing. Cool. Well, enjoy. Aquarius. Pluto's going to shake things up. Deeper levels of union and autonomy means deeper fracturing in the external simulation. But it's just a show. On Mahashivaratri, the lingam was here at the window. It was dark, it was night, but I could see my reflection by the candle on either side of the lingam and the window. And I started to see this playful face of Sophia, like smiling at me, like, this is the lingam here, right? So I kept moving my face and seeing like different sides of her. The right looked different from the left, and I was like, I was giving me a cheeky smile, like in the reflection of the mirror. I was like, what you up to, girl? What are you showing me, Sophia? Dang you, like just playing. And I feel like that's her. Like, sometimes the simulation, we can take it very seriously, but if we understand that this whole thing is a game and that's a show, we just have to, it's just a show it's a bad TV show on a screen that one can choose to watch, or you can just put the TV off because it's made up. It's a simulation. It's a polarizing simulation to throw you. Just go back to your actual lived life, which is playful, fun, expressive, totally taken care of, abundant, communal, in nature. That doesn't even exist. It's just like I don't even know that reality anymore. It's like there's a whole other world. And that reality is going to exist less and less for people. It's just going to be like, ah, fuck this bullshit. I'm going to live, like just like turning off the TV on that whole story that comes at us from mass media culture, that whole story, just going like, this is totally Maya. It's completely fabricated. It's a polarizing simulation of the true creative reality. We're all over here dissolving further into love in a union and non-duality. And your world is getting crazy because there's so many of us doing this right now. Like, and it's this energy pulling more of our brothers and sisters into union, into merging, right? Just boof, 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 like, and that's just going to be nothing. It's nothing. It's like an old weird, when you read in a storybook and you're like, what? They did what up until 2022? What kind of freaking freaky ass world was that? Like, we're going to look back and be like, when you look back on history and you're like, those people were idiots. Meantime, we were idiots. We were all idiots in our lifetime. But we're going to look back at it. We're going to have that feeling. The Renaissance is like a whole new era. So we're going to be like, the hell about this whole thing we've just come through? Because this is going to be so different and expansive. It's like going to be hilarious to look back at what we've just come through. We're going to be like, wow, those people in history really didn't get it, did they? Did they? Yeah, so. I also said this last year or the year before, but this 8-year cycle, I said, is the path to the Imperium. That came out of me just as a prophecy, and like I said, this is where I riff, where I play music, and I'm like, I just remembered that I said that, and that's a deeper, what I've just said now is a deeper discourse on that, like a deeper unpacking of that. The Imperium is like the world outside of the alchemical path. It's being in Eden again through all these things we've discussed, like full self-love, acceptance, expression, living where it's peaceful, being in like a chill vibe, like being good to the body, like not living inside that story, being in your own flow. That is the return to the garden. That's when union happens here, the child is born, the playful self comes back, right? And we just like vibing. So so the Imperium is like Eden. It's a return to what we're actually built for, what we designed for, what the Holy Mother intended, but the world fell into this demiurge sort of split, polarizing place, right? All on purpose, all by design, all this the large cycle. I say the Ouroboros goes into this pattern. Well, this 1-year Ouroboros falls into a 25,800 something years cycle. Right, and those fit into like 500 year cycles. So it's like this pattern. We just come down to the year, but we're inside very large patterns. And we've come through our galactic second climax and into a galactic breakthrough. We're having a galactic renaissance as well. The pattern is we're coming out of Kali Yuga, right? So it's been a 26,000 year cycle, and we are right at the darkest part of it. So we're about to break through into Satya Yuga, which is the golden age. So that's even in that big long calendar. So we're having a breakthrough, and we're moving back into the golden age. What would that look like for a human? Well, we'd be living in the Imperium. That's what they mean in alchemy. And the Imperium is this place of you living in another reality. I don't even live in the reality. When I talk about the simulation, it's like I'm talking about a TV show. Because to actually live in it, it's just weird to observe now. But it is a TV show. It's not at all part of my life. Like there's so many people are living inside a magical story, a fun life. It's full of creativity, and they're following the mother. They're not trying to manifest their dream house in the Hollywood Hills, right? They're not doing that because that's not manifestation. They're actually on quest, in journey, in transformation, and they're living and expressing. And it's like a whole nother world. It's a quest world. It's a quest dimension of fun, lovely openings, and just vibing your vibe. And that's living in the Imperium. And I think we kind of go into deeper levels of what it is to truly live heaven on earth. Full, total autonomy, sovereignty, expression, power. Really marrying consciousness, heaven to matter, earth. We are marrying the Father and the Mother in our bodies. a deep marrying of self into like a new level of power that has even more capacity for love because it's so true to self and self-love. So, yeah, nearly an hour and a half. I should end here. Unless there's anything more. I just love speaking about this. No, I think we should end there. But exciting times. I think it's why we all incarnated here. It's a great time to be alive, isn't it? If I were to drop into any game at any point, if, the world and life is a game, which it is, I'd be like, drop me right there. Thank you very much. That's going to be an adventure. Fun, new. It's interesting having lived through the old generation and tasted it, and we only coming into a new generation because we've lived the old one, so we've been through the journey of it and we're breaking through. It's in our personal journeys, so is the reality and the story, and we're breaking through into new expansion and power. So it's like reality will shift. We're breaking through in ourselves into this Aquarian age. It's that breakthrough is in the self, and it's occurring out here. The true mages. Okay, sending all my love. And I'd love to hear what you're thinking about this coming age. Please share, is it I know we all feel a lot, and I often have when I share something, somebody will say something so profound and they've just been going through it. So, yeah, what are you feeling? I'd love to hear what you're kind of perceiving in yourself and what you see in reality and what you're thinking about this age of Aquarius. Pluto moving in. What does this mean? How are you feeling? All right. Sending love.